aita, for refusing to give my wedding dress to my sister after she called my fiancé not good enough. I, too, 8 female, am getting married in 3 months to my amazing fiancé Jake, 30 male. We've been together for 4 years, and he's honestly the kindest, most supportive person I've ever met. He's a middle school teacher who coaches basketball on weekends and volunteers at the animal shelter. He's not wealthy, but he works hard, and we're building a good life together. My sister Emma, 25 female, has always been the golden child in our family. She's beautiful, successful in marketing and dating. A lawyer named Brad who makes 6 figures. My parents constantly praise her achievements, while my accomplishments get overlooked. I've learned to live with it, but it still hurts. 6 months ago, I found the perfect wedding dress at a vintage boutique. It's a stunning 1960s lace gown that cost me $800, a huge splurge on our budget. But I fell in love with it. The seamstress said it's incredibly well made and could easily be worth $3,000 if it were new. Last week, Emma announced she and Brad got engaged after dating for 8 months. She immediately started planning this extravagant wedding for next summer. When I showed her photos, her eyes lit up. "Oh wow, this is gorgeous. Actually, this would be perfect for my wedding. Since you're marrying ... well, Jake, you probably won't need something so fancy. I could really make this dress shine at my wedding with Brad. His family is very well connected. You know?" I was speechless. She continued, "Plus, I'll probably have a photographer capture it properly. Unlike your wedding, I'd take good care of it, obviously." My parents immediately chimed in. Mom said, "Emma has a point, honey. Her wedding will be much more formal, and this dress would photograph beautifully." Dad added, "It's just practical. Emma's wedding will be bigger and more important." I finally found my voice and said, "Absolutely not. The dress is mine. I chose it for my wedding." And the implication that my wedding is somehow lesser because Jake isn't wealthy was incredibly hurtful. Emma rolled her eyes. "Don't be dramatic. I'm just being realistic about your ... situation. Jake's sweet, but let's be honest, you're not exactly marrying up. This dress deserves a real wedding." I left immediately. Jake was furious when I told him what happened. He said we should postpone seeing my family until they apologize. Since then, I've received dozens of texts. Emma says I'm being selfish and petty and that she's just trying to help, since the dress would get more use at her wedding. My parents are pressuring me to keep the peace and think about what's best for the family. My aunt even called saying I should be the bigger person. But my cousin Sarah, who's always been honest with me, texted privately saying Emma has been telling people I'm jealous of her engagement and being difficult about sharing family resources. The dress on a budget wedding. My friends are split. Some say family should come first and it's just a dress. Others say Emma was completely out of line and I should stick to my guns. I'm standing firm. This dress represents months of saving and dreaming about my special day. But the family pressure is intense, and I'm starting to wonder if I'm being unreasonable. The worst part, Emma has been posting about wedding dress shopping on social media, and how some people don't appreciate what they have. Jake keeps reassuring me that our wedding will be perfect regardless of what my family thinks, but I can see how much their comments hurt him too. He's an incredible man who doesn't deserve their snobby attitude. So, Reddit aita for refusing to update. Thank you all for the support. I've decided to have the dress altered significantly so it couldn't fit Emma anyway. Jake and I are also considering eloping to avoid more family drama. Sometimes you have to choose your own happiness over keeping toxic people comfortable. Aita for exposing my brother's affair at his engagement party after he tried to steal my inheritance. Throwaway account, because this situation has blown up my entire family and I need unbiased opinions. I, 29 female. Growing up, our parents always favored him. He was the golden child who could do no wrong. While I was constantly criticized and overlooked, despite this, I always tried to maintain a relationship with him because family is important to me. Our grandmother Rose passed away 2 years ago. She was the only family member who truly understood and supported me throughout my childhood. Grandma Rose was incredibly wealthy. She owned several properties and had substantial investments. In her will, she left Marcus the family business worth about $2 million and left me her Victorian mansion plus $500,000 in cash. in her will that she was leaving it to me because I was the only one who truly appreciated family history and would preserve the home's legacy. Marcus was furious about this arrangement. He felt he deserved everything since he was the oldest and the man of the family. He constantly made snide comments about how I manipulated a dying old woman and didn't deserve the inheritance. Our parents sided with him, naturally, saying I should do the right thing and give him the house since he had a family to think about. For context, Marcus is engaged to Jessica 28F and they have twin 3-year-old daughters together. Jessica has always been sweet to me, and I genuinely like her. She often confides in me about their relationship struggles, though I usually try to stay neutral and just listen supportively. Here's where things get complicated. About 6 months ago, Jessica started acting strange around me. She seemed anxious and would change the subject whenever Marcus came up. 3 months ago, she broke down crying at a family barbecue and pulled me aside. She confessed that she discovered Marcus was having an affair with his secretary, Amanda, to 4F. Jessica had found explicit text messages and photos on his phone, and when she confronted him, Marcus gaslighted her, claiming she was seeing things and being paranoid and crazy. Jessica was devastated but felt trapped because of the twins and their upcoming wedding. She'd already put deposits down on everything, sent invitations, and felt like she couldn't back out without everyone judging her. She made me promise not to tell anyone because she was still processing everything and trying to decide what to do. I was torn but respected her wishes. However, I started noticing things too. Marcus would disappear for hours claiming work emergencies. He bought new cologne and started dressing differently. When I asked Jessica how things were going, she'd just smile sadly and change the subject. Weeks ago, everything came to a head. Marcus called me demanding that I sign papers transferring the Victorian house to him. When I refused, he became aggressive and threatening. "You're being selfish," he screamed. "I have a real family with real responsibilities. You're just a single woman with no kids who doesn't even use that massive house properly. Grandma would have wanted me to have it if she'd known Jessica was pregnant again." I told him that even if Jessica was pregnant, the house was mine legally and morally, and I wasn't giving it up. He then said something that made my blood boil. "Fine, but don't expect to be welcome at my wedding or in this family anymore. You're just a bitter, jealous spinster who can't stand seeing others happy." The spinster comment was particularly hurtful because I've struggled with dating due to anxiety and past trauma. Marcus knows this and weaponized it against me. That evening, I was so upset that I drove to a bar to clear my head. Obvious to anyone watching, I took photos and videos on my phone, not really thinking clearly about what I'd do with them. The next morning, I called Jessica. I told her I'd seen Marcus with Amanda and had proof. She broke down completely, admitting she'd been hoping it would stop on its own, but knowing deep down it wouldn't. She said she felt humiliated and trapped, especially with the engagement party planned for that weekend. Here's where I might be the asshole. Jessica didn't explicitly ask me to do anything with the evidence, but she was crying about how everyone would judge her if she called off the wedding and how Marcus would probably turn the family against her. She felt like no one would believe her word against his. Since our family adores Marcus, I made a decision that I'm now questioning, giving a flowery speech about true love and commitment and finding his soulmate. When it was time for open mic, I stood up. I said, "I'd like to share something important about true love and commitment." Of Marcus with Amanda, along with screenshots of their text messages that Jessica had shared with me with her permission that morning. The room went completely silent. You could hear a pin drop. Jessica's face went through multiple emotions: shock, embarrassment, but also something that looked like relief. Marcus turned purple and started screaming at me, calling me every name in the book. Amanda ran out crying. Destroyed the family. Dad said I was vindictive and cruel, and that I should have handled it privately. They're both saying I did this out of jealousy and spite over the inheritance situation. But here's the thing. Several family members came up to me afterward thanking me. Jessica's sister hugged me and said I'd saved Jessica from making the biggest mistake of her life. Jessica's parents, who were helping pay for the wedding, thanked me for preventing them from wasting more money on a sham marriage. Even some of Marcus's friends admitted they'd suspected something was going on. Jessica herself had a complex reaction, months, and that she couldn't have found the courage to expose him herself. She's since moved back in with her parents with the twins, and is pursuing legal action regarding custody and their shared assets. However, the fallout has been intense. Marcus has been calling and texting me nonstop, alternating between threats and attempts to guilt-trip me. He's telling everyone that I fabricated the evidence out of jealousy and spite. Our parents have temporarily cut contact with me, saying, I need to think about what I've done and find a way to fix this mess. Some extended family members are taking sides. Have minded my own business. My cousin posted on Facebook about family loyalty and washing dirty laundry in public. Regarding the inheritance, he's claiming that my unhinged behavior proves I'm not mentally stable enough to manage Grandma's house and that the family should intervene. He's even suggested contesting the will based on my recent actions showing poor judgment. I'm also dealing with guilt about the public nature of the exposure. Could I have handled this differently? Should I have just told Jessica to handle it herself? Was it wrong to humiliate Marcus so publicly, even though he was cheating? My therapist says I was protecting Jessica and the twins from a potentially abusive situation. The gaslighting was definitely emotional abuse, but I can't shake the feeling that I went too far. The engagement party was supposed to be a celebration, and I turned it into a nightmare for everyone involved. Jessica is doing better now and has thanked me multiple times. They're too young to understand what happened, but eventually they'll learn that their family broke up in a very public, dramatic way. Marcus, meanwhile, is apparently still seeing Amanda and telling people that he and Jessica grew apart and that I'm spreading malicious lies about him. He's painting himself as the victim of a vindictive sister who destroyed his happiness out of jealousy. The inheritance situation has also gotten worse. Our parents are now pressuring other family members to side with Marcus and make me see reason. About signing over the house, they're framing it as a way to repair the family and show good faith after what I did at the engagement party. Cook her famous recipes. It's filled with family photos and heirlooms that span generations. The thought of giving it up, especially to Marcus after everything that's happened, makes me physically sick. But I'm exhausted from the family drama and starting to wonder if it would be easier to just give him what he wants to restore peace. Maybe I really did go too far, and this is the universe's way of telling me I don't deserve the inheritance after all. Aita for refusing to be my stepsister's surrogate after she sabotaged my college scholarship. Using a throwaway because this involves family and legal issues, this is going to be long, but I need to give full context for people to understand why. I'm so conflicted. I, 26 female, have a complicated history with my stepsister Vanessa, 28 female. Our parents married when I was 12 and she was 14, and from day one, she made it clear she resented my existence. My mom had died in a car accident 2 years earlier, and my dad was still grieving when he met Vanessa's mother, Carol. At a grief support group, her husband had died of cancer. The blended family situation was rocky from the start. Vanessa was used to being an only child and having all of Carol's attention. She saw me as an intruder who was taking away her new perfect family with my dad. Carol tried to be a good stepmom, but she clearly favored Vanessa, which I understood. Vanessa was her biological daughter and was going through a difficult adjustment period throughout high school. Vanessa was the golden child. She was beautiful, popular, got decent grades, and was involved in student government. I was more of a quiet academic type, not popular, but I maintained a 4.0 GPA and was heavily involved in debate team and volunteer work. Despite our different personalities, I genuinely tried to build a relationship with Vanessa. I included her in activities with my friends, helped her with homework, and defended her when other kids at school made mean comments. Senior year is where everything went wrong, and I'm still dealing with the consequences 8 years later. I had worked incredibly hard throughout high school to earn a full academic scholarship to my dream school, Northwestern University. I wanted to study journalism and eventually become an investigative reporter. The scholarship was merit-based and covered full tuition, room, and board, worth about $280,000 over 4 years. For my dad, who was still struggling financially after my mom's medical bills and funeral costs, this scholarship was a miracle. The scholarship required maintaining a 3.8 GPA, completing 40 hours of community service per semester, and staying out of any serious disciplinary trouble. I had met all requirements and was set to start in the fall. 3 weeks before graduation, I was called into the principal's office. I was being accused of academic dishonesty, specifically plagiarizing a major research paper for my AP history class. The accusation came with evidence, an email trail showing me supposedly purchasing a paper from an online essay mill. I was completely blindsided. I had written that paper myself over the course of 3 weeks, doing extensive research and citations. I had drafts, research notes, and could explain every argument I'd made. But the email evidence seemed damning. It showed communications from my school email account with the essay company, including payment confirmation. The thing is, I had never sent those emails. Someone had obviously hacked into my account or somehow gained access to send them. But the school's IT department said the emails originated from my computer at home during times when I was supposedly online. Despite my protests and evidence of my writing process, the school upheld the plagiarism charge. My AP history teacher, Mrs. Rodriguez, fought for me. She knew my writing style and insisted the paper was authentically mine. But the email evidence was too convincing for the administration. The consequences were devastating. I was suspended for the last week of school, barely allowed to graduate, and most importantly, Northwestern revoked my scholarship. The scholarship committee said they couldn't risk their reputation on a student with proven academic dishonesty. Backup schools had already filled their spots and used up their financial aid. I ended up having to take a gap year, work full-time at a grocery store, and eventually attend community college before transferring to a state school. I graduated with $45,000 in student loans and a degree from a decent but not prestigious university. I suspected Vanessa might have been involved. She had access to our shared family computer, knew my passwords. I was terrible about security back then, and had expressed jealousy about my scholarship. She had been accepted to a good school but with minimal financial aid, and Carol was stressed about the costs. But I had no proof, and everyone thought I was just looking for someone to blame for my own mistakes. My dad was disappointed in me. Carol was sympathetic, but clearly didn't believe my conspiracy theories about Vanessa. And even some of my friends thought I might have actually cheated and was in denial about it. Vanessa, for her part, was supportive. She told everyone how sorry she felt for me and how unfair it all was. She even helped me apply for jobs during my gap year. At the time, I thought maybe I was being paranoid and unfair to suspect her. Fast forward to 2 years ago, Vanessa married her college boyfriend, Ryan, 29M, and they've been trying to have a baby ever since. After multiple miscarriages and fertility testing, they discovered that Vanessa has severe endometriosis and scarring that makes it nearly impossible for her to carry a pregnancy to term. The doctors said her chances of a successful pregnancy are less than 5%, and IVF hasn't been successful after 3 attempts. Vanessa and Ryan are now exploring surrogacy. They've looked into agencies, but the costs are astronomical, around $100,000 to $150,000 total. Their insurance doesn't cover it, and they're already in debt from the IVF attempts and Vanessa's medical treatments. 6 months ago, Vanessa approached me about being their surrogate. She was crying, talking about how devastated she was about not being able to have children, and how I was the only person she trusted to carry her baby. She said it would mean everything to her if I would consider it, and that she knew it was a huge ask, but hoped our sisterly bond would make me willing to help. I was initially sympathetic. Despite our complicated history, I didn't want Vanessa to suffer, and I could see how desperate she was to become a mother. I told her I'd think about it and do some research about what surrogacy involved, but the more I researched, the more hesitant I became. Surrogacy is a huge physical, emotional, and legal commitment. I'd have to take hormones, undergo medical procedures, potentially take time off work, and deal with all the risks and discomforts of pregnancy. I'd also have to put my own life plans on hold for over a year. More importantly, I realized I wasn't emotionally ready to carry a baby for someone else. I'm single, focused on my career. I finally became a journalist, though not the high-profile investigative reporter I dreamed of being, and still dealing with some trust issues from my family dynamics growing up. I gently told Vanessa that I didn't think I was the right person to be their surrogate, but that I supported them in finding another solution. I offered to help research agencies or other potential surrogates in our extended family. Vanessa did not take this well. She accused me of being selfish and holding grudges from high school. She said I was punishing her for having a better relationship with our parents and being more successful. She works in marketing and makes good money. She brought up how she'd always tried to include me and be a good sister, and how this was my chance to do something meaningful for family. The conversation got heated, and she eventually said something that stopped me cold. I've always been there for you, even when you screwed up your own future with that cheating scandal. The least you could do is help me now when I'm genuinely suffering. The way she said cheating scandal with air quotes and a slight smirk made something click in my brain. It was the same expression she'd had senior year when she was being supportive about my situation. I confronted her directly. Vanessa, she immediately got defensive and denied it, but her reaction was telling. She became flustered, started contradicting herself, and kept saying things like, "I can't believe you'd accuse me of something so serious. And you're just looking for someone to blame for your own failures." That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about her reaction and some inconsistencies I'd never noticed before. The next day, I did something I probably should have done years ago. I hired a private investigator. It took the PI 3 weeks to uncover the truth, but what he found was worse than I'd imagined. Vanessa hadn't just hacked my email, she'd orchestrated an elaborate scheme. She'd used multiple fake accounts, enlisted a friend who was good with computers, and even planted evidence on our shared family computer. The PI found digital footprints that the high school's IT department had missed, including deleted files and metadata that proved the emails were sent from Vanessa's accounts, not mine. More damning, the PI found evidence that Vanessa had been in contact with Northwestern's scholarship committee, posing as a concerned classmate and providing them with additional evidence of my supposed academic dishonesty. She'd created fake social media accounts and even fabricated conversations to make it look like I'd been cheating throughout high school. The motivation was exactly what I'd suspected: jealousy about my scholarship and fear that I was becoming the successful child in our blended family. Vanessa had been accepted to her first-choice school, but needed $80,000 in loans. She couldn't stand that I was getting a free ride to a more prestigious university. When I confronted Vanessa with this evidence, she initially tried to deny it, then minimize it. It was just a stupid teenage mistake. Then justify it. You were always Dad's favorite, and I was just trying to level the playing field. She begged me not to tell her parents or Ryan, saying it would destroy her marriage and her relationship with the family. She also offered to try to make financial amends, paying for my student loans or helping me pursue further education. But the statute of limitations had passed for any legal action, and Northwestern said that while they sympathized with my situation, too much time had gone by to reinstate my scholarship or admission. This brings us to the current situation. After discovering the truth about what Vanessa did, I told her definitively that I would not be her surrogate. I said that her betrayal had damaged our relationship beyond repair, and I couldn't trust her enough to enter into such an intimate and vulnerable arrangement with her. Vanessa has been relentless in trying to change my mind. She's had Carol call me crying about how much Vanessa wants to be a mother. She's had other family members reach out saying I'm being vindictive and holding on to ancient history. Ryan even contacted me saying he had no idea about what happened in high school and begging me not to punish him and their future children for Vanessa's past mistakes. The family pressure has been intense. Carol keeps saying that Vanessa was just a teenager who made a bad decision, and that I'm being cruel by denying her the chance to have children over something that happened so long ago. My dad is conflicted. He's horrified by what Vanessa did, but also feels like I should be the bigger person and help with the surrogacy since Vanessa is truly sorry and has learned from her mistakes. Some family members don't even know about the scholarship sabotage. Vanessa has told them that I'm refusing to be their surrogate because of old sibling rivalry and jealousy issues. To them, I look like the unreasonable one who won't help a desperate family member have children. The situation is complicated by the fact that I do feel some sympathy for Vanessa's fertility struggles. Infertility is genuinely devastating, and I wouldn't wish it on anyone. I can see how desperate and heartbroken she is about not being able to have biological children, but I also can't get past what she did to me. Her actions didn't just cost me a scholarship, they altered the entire trajectory of my life. I'm 8 years behind where I planned to be career-wise. I'm dealing with student loan debt that affects every financial decision I make, and I missed out on opportunities and connections that would have come from attending Northwestern, more than the practical consequences, though I'm hurt by the betrayal itself. For years, I blamed myself and wondered if I had somehow actually cheated and blocked it out. I went through therapy trying to understand why I would have done something so self-destructive. The gaslighting and self-doubt affected my confidence and relationships for years. And now, Vanessa wants me to do something incredibly intimate and sacrificial for her. After she actively sabotaged my future when we were teenagers, it feels like she's asking me to literally give my body to help her after she took away my dreams. But I'm also struggling with the guilt. Is it wrong to hold on to resentment from high school? Vanessa was only 18 when she did this, young enough that maybe it really was just a terrible teenage mistake. Should I be more forgiving, especially given how much she's suffering now? And what about Ryan and their future children? They're innocent in all of this. By refusing to be their surrogate, am I punishing them for Vanessa's actions? There's also the practical consideration that I might be their best option. Agency surrogacy is incredibly expensive, and they're already in debt. Other family members have either medical issues that would prevent them from being surrogates, or they're too old, or they've made it clear they're not interested. My therapist says I shouldn't feel obligated to be anyone's surrogate regardless of the history, and that the scholarship situation actually makes it even more inappropriate for Vanessa to ask such a huge favor. But my therapist doesn't have to live with the family dynamics and constant pressure I've also been doing research about surrogacy and discovered that it's emotionally complicated even under the best circumstances. Risks of the surrogate bonding with the baby, legal complications if something goes wrong, and potential relationship strain throughout the process. Given my already complex relationship with Vanessa, I worry that surrogacy could make things even worse between us. But then I see Vanessa's social media posts about Mother's Day and baby announcements from friends, and I can see how much pain she's in. I think about Ryan, who seems like a genuinely good guy and would be a great father. I think about the fact that I could potentially help create a life and give them the family they desperately want. Last week, things escalated when Vanessa had a complete breakdown at our dad's birthday dinner. She started crying uncontrollably, talking about how her own sister won't even help her have a baby, and how she's being punished forever for one mistake. Several family members who didn't know the full story were clearly judging me, and the whole evening was ruined. Carol pulled me aside afterward and said that my refusal to help with surrogacy was tearing the family apart, and that I needed to find it in my heart to forgive. She said Vanessa has been having panic attacks and depression about her infertility, and that my rejection has made everything worse. My dad later called and said he understood why I was angry about the scholarship situation, but that he was worried about Vanessa's mental health and hoped I would reconsider. He said that being a surrogate could be a way for me to turn something negative into something positive and help heal our family. Relationships? I'm honestly exhausted by all of this. Part of me wonders if I should just agree to be their surrogate, to end the family drama and help Vanessa get what she wants. But another part of me feels like that would be betraying myself and rewarding her for what she did to me. I've also been thinking about the long-term implications. If I do this for Vanessa, what happens to our relationship afterward? Will I always be reminded of her betrayal every time I see the child I carried for her? Will she expect me to be grateful that she let me help her? Will our family dynamics ever be healthy, or will this just create a different kind of dysfunction? And what about my own future? I'm single now, but I hope to get married and have my own children someday. Will carrying Vanessa's baby affect my ability to have my own pregnancy experience? Will it complicate my future relationships? There's also the financial aspect. Vanessa and Ryan have offered to pay for all medical expenses and give me a small compensation, $15,000. But that's far less than a professional surrogate would receive. I'd also have to take unpaid time off work for appointments and potentially for recovery after delivery. So Reddit? Aita for refusing to be my stepsister's surrogate after discovering she sabotaged my college scholarship. Am I being vindictive and holding on to old grudges? Or am I justified in not wanting to make such a huge sacrifice for someone who betrayed me so badly? Edit 1. A lot of people are asking about legal action. The statute of limitations has passed for both criminal and civil action. I consulted with several lawyers when I first discovered what happened, and there's unfortunately nothing I can do legally at this point. Edit 2. For those asking why I don't just expose Vanessa to the whole family, I've considered it, but I'm worried it would just create more drama and hurt Ryan, who I genuinely like and who had nothing to do with this. Also, some family members already know and are still pressuring me to move on. Update: I had a long conversation with Ryan yesterday. I told him the full story about what Vanessa did, including showing him the PI's report. He was completely shocked. He had no idea about any of it. He said he needed time to process everything and talk to Vanessa. Today, he called me back. Apparently, he confronted Vanessa and she admitted everything. He's taking some time to think about their marriage and the surrogacy situation. He apologized to me and said he completely understands why I can't be their surrogate. Vanessa has been calling me nonstop, alternating between begging me not to destroy her marriage and screaming that I'm ruining her life again. I've decided to block her number and go no contact for a while. I feel bad about the situation with Ryan, but I also feel relieved that someone finally believes me and understands why I can't do this. My dad is upset about the marriage troubles, but he's also said he's proud of me for standing up for myself. I'm sticking with my decision. I will not be anyone's surrogate for refusing to pay for my daughter's wedding, and I'm done feeling guilty about it. She uninvited her disabled sister to be Instagram perfect. Throwaway account because my family reads Reddit, and this has become a huge mess. I'm honestly questioning everything I thought I knew about my daughters and need outside perspective. I, 52 male, have been married to my wife, Linda, 49 female, for 28 years. We have 3 daughters, Rebecca, 26 female, twins Sophie and Sarah, both 23 female. This situation involves Rebecca and Sophie, and it's torn our family apart. Some background: Sophie was born with spina bifida and uses a wheelchair. She's had multiple surgeries throughout her life and deals with ongoing health challenges. But she's incredibly resilient, smart, and has an amazing sense of humor. She graduated summa cum laude from college with a degree in computer science and works as a software developer. She's also an accomplished artist and volunteers teaching coding to kids with disabilities. Rebecca has always been what people call the pretty one. She was a cheerleader, homecoming queen, went to college on a partial academic scholarship, and now works in marketing for a luxury fashion brand. She's engaged to David, 28M, who comes from a wealthy family and works in finance. I want to be clear that I love both my daughters equally, but their relationship has always been complicated. Rebecca was often jealous of the attention Sophie received due to her medical needs when they were younger, while Sophie sometimes felt like she was seen as the charity case of the family. We did family therapy when they were teenagers to help them work through these issues, and I thought they'd developed a good relationship as adults. Rebecca got engaged to David last year, and they've been planning an elaborate wedding for this October. The budget is $85,000, which Linda and I are paying for, despite it being way more than we can comfortably afford. We depleted our vacation fund, took out a loan against our house, and I've been working overtime for months to cover the costs. We did this because Rebecca is our firstborn, and we wanted to give her the wedding of her dreams. David's family is extremely wealthy. His parents own multiple businesses and properties. They offered to pay for the wedding, but Rebecca insisted she wanted us to pay because it was important to her that it come from her real family. We were touched by this sentiment and agreed, even though it meant significant financial sacrifice. The wedding planning has been stressful from the beginning. Rebecca has very specific vision. She wants everything to be perfect for social media. She's hiring a professional photographer and videographer specifically for Instagram content, has planned elaborate photo setups, and keeps talking about how the wedding will launch her influencer career. She's already gained several thousand followers, just posting engagement photos and wedding planning content. 3 weeks ago, Rebecca called a family meeting. She sat us all down and said she had something difficult to discuss about the wedding. My stomach dropped because I immediately sensed something was wrong. I've been thinking a lot about the wedding photos and videos, she started. This is going to be shared with thousands of people online and potentially seen by David's business contacts and my professional network. I need everything to look absolutely perfect. She then looked directly at Sophie and said, I think it would be better if Sophie wasn't in the wedding party. Maybe she could do a reading instead, or handle the guest book. Sophie looked confused. But I'm your maid of honor. We already picked out my dress and everything. Rebecca took a deep breath. I know, and I'm really sorry about this, but I've been looking at the photos from other weddings, and I'm worried about the logistics. The wheelchair might be difficult to work around for the photos, and I don't want anything to distract from the overall aesthetic I'm going for. The room went completely silent. Linda's face went white. Sophie just stared at Rebecca like she couldn't believe what she was hearing. Are you saying you don't want me in your wedding because I'm in a wheelchair? Sophie asked quietly. It's not about you personally, Rebecca said quickly. It's just that this wedding is really important for my career and David's family connections. Everything needs to look elegant and cohesive. I'm sure you understand. I was so shocked I couldn't speak at first. Linda started crying. Sophie asked if she was even invited to the wedding as a guest, and Rebecca hesitated before saying, Of course you're invited. I just think it would be better if you sat in the back during the ceremony so you don't block anyone's view. That's when I found my voice. I told Rebecca that what she was saying was absolutely unacceptable, and that Sophie was her sister, had always supported her. Rebecca got defensive and said, I was being unfair and not considering how important this wedding was for her future. Sophie left the room crying. Linda followed her. Rebecca stayed and tried to convince me that she was being practical and that Sophie would understand eventually. Over the next few days, the situation got worse. Rebecca sent Sophie a long text message explaining that this wasn't personal and that she hoped Sophie could be mature about the situation. She said she'd looked into wheelchair accessibility at the venue and it would be complicated to accommodate. I was furious. I've been to that venue multiple times for other events, and it's completely wheelchair accessible. Rebecca was lying. Sophie initially tried to be understanding. She said maybe she could step down as maid of honor, but still be in the wedding party. Rebecca rejected this, saying she wanted her bridesmaids to be able to do a choreographed dance down the aisle, and Sophie wouldn't be able to participate. This was when I realized how deep this went. Rebecca hadn't just had a moment of poor judgment. She had systematically planned to exclude her disabled sister from her wedding for purely aesthetic reasons. I called Rebecca and told her that if Sophie wasn't welcome in the wedding party, then Linda and I wouldn't be paying for the wedding. She initially laughed it off, thinking I was bluffing. When she realized I was serious, she became hysterical. You can't do this to me, she screamed. The deposits are already paid. David's family will think I'm trashy if I can't afford my own wedding. You're ruining my entire life over this. I told her she was ruining her own life by choosing Instagram aesthetics over her sister's feelings. She hung up on me since then. The fallout has been catastrophic. Rebecca has been calling and texting constantly, alternating between begging, guilt-tripping, and threatening. She's told extended family that I'm holding her wedding hostage and favoring Sophie like always. David called me to try to mediate. He said he understood my concerns, but hoped we could find a compromise. He offered to pay for the wedding himself. But I told him this wasn't about money. It was about Rebecca's values and treatment of her sister. Rebecca's bridesmaids have been calling Linda, saying, we're being unreasonable and that Rebecca is just stressed and will come around. Rebecca's matron of honor even suggested that Sophie could be in the photos, but they could edit around. The wheelchair, some family members are taking Rebecca's side. My sister thinks I'm being too harsh and that wedding planning makes people crazy. My mother-in-law says I should pay for the wedding and let the sisters work out their problems themselves, but other family members are horrified by Rebecca's behavior. My brother, who has a son with autism, said he'd never speak to Rebecca again. If she excluded Sophie, Linda's sister, who works with disabled children, called Rebecca's behavior disgusting and ableist, Sophie has been trying to play peacemaker, which breaks my heart. She's said she skipped the wedding entirely if it will help Rebecca and me reconcile. She keeps saying she doesn't want to be the reason the family falls apart. The financial pressure is also intense. We've already paid $30,000 in deposits that we can't get back. The venue, caterer, and band all have no cancellation clauses. Rebecca keeps pointing this out, saying we're throwing away money we can't afford to lose. Rebecca has also ramped up her social media campaign. She's been posting cryptic messages about family drama and people not supporting your dreams. She's gained more followers who don't know the full story and are sympathizing with her about unnamed family problems interfering with her wedding. Yesterday, she posted a photo of herself crying with a caption about how some people will never understand the pressure of planning a perfect wedding and how heartbroken she is that family drama might ruin her special day. The comments are full of people telling her to cut toxic people out of her life and that her wedding day should be about her happiness. David's parents have now gotten involved. They called Linda to say they're concerned about the family dysfunction, and whether Rebecca is marrying into a stable situation. They offered again to pay for the wedding, but with the condition that they get to control the guest list and planning decisions. This has made Rebecca even more frantic. She's now saying that if I don't pay for the wedding, David's family will take over and she'll lose all control over her own wedding. She's begging me not to let that happen. I'm starting to doubt myself. Maybe I am being too harsh. Wedding planning is stressful, and Rebecca is young and focused on her career. Maybe she would have come around and included Sophie if I hadn't made such a hard line in the sand. But every time I think about compromising, I remember Sophie's face when Rebecca said she should sit in the back so she wouldn't block anyone's view. I think about all the times Sophie has supported Rebecca through breakups, job searches, and other challenges. I think about how proud Sophie was to be chosen as maid of honor. Linda is conflicted too. She keeps asking if there's a way to pay for the wedding while still making our disapproval clear. The situation has also affected our relationship with Sarah, Sophie's twin. She's been posting her own social media content supporting disability rights and inclusion, which everyone knows is directed at Rebecca, is now claiming that Sarah and I are bullying her during an already stressful time. She's painted herself as the victim of a family conspiracy and gained sympathy from people who don't know the full story. The wedding is in 6 weeks. Vendors need final payments. Rebecca's dress needs final alterations. The bridesmaids have planned a bachelorette party. Invitations have been sent to 200 people, including David's extended family and business associates. Rebecca has given me an ultimatum. Pay for the wedding by this Friday, or she'll have to cancel everything and deal with the humiliation and financial consequences of my decision. She's also said that if I don't pay, she'll never forgive me, and I'll lose her forever. She claims that David is reconsidering their relationship because of the family drama, and that I'll be responsible if her engagement falls apart. Last night, Sophie came to me crying. She said she's been researching wheelchair-accessible wedding venues and found several that would work better than Rebecca's current choice. She offered to help Rebecca plan a new wedding that would be more inclusive, even though Rebecca has treated her terribly. This made me even more angry at Rebecca. Sophie is being incredibly gracious and mature, while Rebecca continues to act selfishly and cruelly. But I'm also exhausted by the drama and financial stress. We've already lost the $30,000 in deposits. If I don't pay the remaining $55,000, we'll have spent a huge amount of money for nothing. If I do pay, I'm enabling Rebecca's discriminatory behavior toward her disabled sister. I keep going back and forth. Maybe I should pay for the wedding and then address Rebecca's behavior afterward. Maybe I'm making this about principle when it should be about family harmony. But then I think about what message this sends to Sophie and to Rebecca herself. If I pay for this wedding after Rebecca excluded Sophie for aesthetic reasons, am I teaching Rebecca that discrimination is acceptable as long as you're pretty and popular? Am I showing Sophie that her feelings and dignity are less important than keeping peace? My therapist says I need to stick to my values regardless of the financial cost or family pressure, $30,000, or potentially missing her daughter's wedding. Some friends have suggested compromises, like paying for a smaller, less expensive wedding, or paying for this wedding but requiring Rebecca to make public apologies to Sophie. The clock is ticking. Rebecca's deadline is in 3 days. David's parents are pressuring Linda to fix this family mess. Sophie keeps saying she'll drop out of the wedding entirely if it will help. Sarah is threatening to cut contact with Rebecca permanently. I feel like no matter what I choose, I'm going to damage my relationship with at least one of my daughters and potentially lose a lot of money in the process. So, Reddit aita for refusing to pay for my daughter's wedding after she excluded her disabled sister from the wedding party for aesthetic reasons. Should I prioritize family harmony and pay for the wedding despite disagreeing with Rebecca's decision? Edit. A lot of people are asking about Sophie's response to all this. She's been incredibly mature and keeps trying to minimize the conflict. She's said multiple times that she just wants the family to be happy and doesn't want to cause problems. This makes Rebecca's behavior even more heartbreaking to me. Update 1. I showed Linda this thread and the responses. We've decided to stick to our decision. We will not pay for the wedding unless Rebecca apologizes to Sophie and includes her as maid of honor. Linda called Rebecca this morning to tell her our final decision. Rebecca screamed at Linda for over an hour, called us both terrible parents, and said we've ruined her entire life. She's now posted on social media that her toxic family has abandoned her, and she's looking for people to help cry. Her wedding update too. David broke up with Rebecca yesterday. Apparently, his parents had been having doubts about the family drama, and when they learned the full story about why we withdrew funding, they told David they couldn't support him. Marrying someone who would treat a disabled family member that way? Rebecca is now blaming me for destroying her relationship and ruining her entire future. She's moved back in with us temporarily, but won't speak to Sophie or me. I feel terrible about the breakup, but I also feel like we made the right choice. Sophie has been amazing through all of this. She even offered to let Rebecca stay in her room so Rebecca wouldn't have to sleep on the couch. I don't know if Rebecca will ever forgive us, but I couldn't live with myself if I had paid for a wedding that excluded Sophie for such cruel reasons. Am I the a-hole for telling my fiancé's family the truth about how we met and ruining the fairy tale she told them? I, 33M, recently got engaged to my fiancée Claire. Sendling F. She's the love of my life. And honestly, I never thought I'd end up with someone like her. She's kind, brilliant, stunning, and way out of my league, as people like to joke, including her. We've been together for 3 years now, and we got engaged 6 months ago. This story is about something that happened a couple weeks ago at a dinner her family threw to celebrate our engagement. What should have been a happy, warm occasion turned into a total mess because I apparently ruined the fantasy Claire had created around our relationship. Here's the context. Claire comes from a very close-knit, conservative, upper-middle-class family. Think Sunday dinners, family group chats, monogram towels, that kind of vibe. They're lovely people, genuinely, but they have a very curated, perfectionist aesthetic. Appearances matter, especially to Claire's mom. Early in our relationship, I learned that Claire had told her parents we met through a mutual friend at a wine tasting event. She said it was an instant spark kind of moment. She described it like a scene from a rom-com, locking eyes across the room, deep conversation, shared taste in books and travel, etc. The truth, we met on Tinder. Not just that, but it was not exactly love at first sight. Claire was fresh off a breakup, and according to her, just wanted a fun distraction and to remember what it's like to be desired. Her words, I was going through a rough patch myself and was frankly just looking for something casual too. Our first date was a little awkward. We didn't click right away. It took a few more dates and a very drunk night for things to warm up, but warm up they did. We ended up falling for each other hard. The whole journey has been messy, funny, weird, and real. And I love that about us anyway. I never cared that Claire didn't tell her parents the real story. I understood why. She told me they wouldn't respect a relationship that started online, especially on a hookup app. I didn't love hiding it, but it wasn't worth rocking the boat. But over time, I started to feel weird about the lie. Claire told them this whole embellished story that she kept building on. How we talked about Hemingway at the wine bar. I didn't even know who Hemingway was, really. How I rescued her from a guy who was hitting on her never happened. How I texted her a Rumi quote the next day and she knew I was the one. I sent her a meme about raccoons. The lie kept getting bigger. She told her friends too, even on social media. She posted a cute how we met blurb on our anniversary that was totally made up. I let it go because it wasn't hurting anyone, and it made her happy. But here's where it all fell apart. A few weeks ago, Claire's parents hosted a big family dinner to celebrate our engagement. Her parents, siblings, cousins, grandparents, everyone was there. It was at their lake house, beautifully decorated, catered, the works. During dinner, her mom stood up and gave a toast about us. She started retelling the wine tasting story with so much emotion that I actually felt embarrassed. People were getting misty-eyed. Her dad said something about how fate works in beautiful ways when two souls are meant to meet. Then her cousin asked me, "So when you first saw Claire that night, what was it about her that caught your eye? Was it really the way she quoted Neruda?" I chuckled and said, "Actually, we met on Tinder." The entire table went silent. You could hear a fork drop. Claire turned to me slowly, with this look of frozen horror on her face. I laughed nervously, thinking maybe I could recover it with humor. I said something like, "Yeah, not quite as romantic as a wine tasting, but we swiped right, and the rest is history." Still silence. Her mom looked like she had just swallowed a lemon whole. Her dad looked away. A few of her cousins exchanged glances. Claire didn't say a word. The rest of dinner was awkward and quiet. We left early the moment we got in the car. Claire exploded. She said I had humiliated her in front of her entire family, that I was petty and vindictive and had destroyed the narrative she had worked so hard to create. She asked me how I could be so cruel. I tried to explain that I hadn't meant to embarrass her. I just didn't feel comfortable living in a lie, especially one that was becoming a performance. She said, I knew her parents would judge us if they knew the truth, that her mom would think less of her, that I had popped the dream bubble she had built for them and for herself. She was crying, not angry tears, but the kind of broken, disappointed crying that made me feel like the worst person on earth. We didn't speak for a couple days after that. Eventually, we talked, and while we didn't break up, things have felt off cold, like I shattered something she can't quite rebuild. She's still distant, and we haven't told her family anything further. I think they're waiting for some explanation, but Claire told me not to make it worse by trying. To clarify, I've talked to a few friends about this, and opinions are split. Some say I should have just played along and respected her boundaries, that it wasn't my place to correct the story, especially not during that dinner. Others say it's better that the truth is out, that relationships should be built on honesty, not fantasy. I'm torn. I love Claire. I want to marry her, but I don't want to start a life based on a lie, or be someone she's embarrassed to tell the truth about. So, am I the a-hole?